Some of the topics which we are going to cover here are: what can higher education institutes do to reap the benefits emerging from increasing the user base for online education? Reskilling and online certification courses occupy a significant part of online education with a mammoth share. Should universities certify such courses? How technology-driven education can increase democratization of higher education, which will further lead to free and independent thinking? And how can online platforms help achieve the goal, along with many other topics? And to take this panel discussion, I'd like to invite the speakers on stage. Ms. Ravneet Pawha, VP and CEO, Deakin University, Australia. We'd love to invite her on stage, Ms. Ravneet Pawha. Mr. Sudhir Kumar Barai, Director, BITS Pilani. We'd love to invite you on stage, sir. Professor Madhu Veeraraghavan, Pro Vice Chancellor, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Bengaluru. We'd love to invite him on stage. Professor Dr. Biswajoy Chatterjee, Vice Chancellor, University of Engineering and Management, Jaipur, along with Professor Rajita Kulkarni, President, Sri Sri University, to please join us on stage. And moderating the session will be Ms. Ravneet Pawha. I would like to hand it over to you, ma'am.
Almost good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank you all for coming in. I'd also like to thank the panel here. I've got a very esteemed panel. I've got Professor Sudhir, Professor Madhu, and Professor Chatterjee. So thank you so much for coming in on this panel. I think what's really important to talk about today is the impact of technology into the field of education. And I think COVID has reiterated that to a lot of us on how overnight world institutions had to move to look at how one could use effective use of technology. I think what's also important to note that the most important aspect of future of education is going to be based on use of technology. Whether it's at a school level or it's at a higher education level, or we are going to be addressing aspects of immersive technology, I think technology is here to stay, and it is going to play a very important role in our lives and our futures. I'm going to be talking to my panel more around the key aspects through case studies, because this eminent panel has also been leaders in what they have done with their institutions and also impacted the focus of higher education and future of education in India. So I'm really going to be talking more from their experience rather than just focus on what we project will happen. I think it's really important to bring out the experiential part of what these amazing institutions have done over the years and how the future of this education through technology is going to also change. I think the other important part to talk about is, what does online education really mean? When you talk about the World Economic Forum and you talk about what skills the future of work is going to need, the questions that I have in my mind are, can online technology really help in nurturing those skills? It's not just the knowledge, it is also the skills that we have to focus on. So without taking too much of time to sort of talk on where we are coming, let me start with you, Sudhir. BITS Pilani is a brand known to everyone. And I'm interested in your thoughts about use of technology that BITS has used to enhance the experience of higher education for its students. And also, what do you think worked for you?
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Edtech, for inviting us, which is organizing this lovely interaction and the panel discussions. And thank you, Ravneet, for the question. So I will just give the context very quickly. As the BITS Pilani is the institution, and I think goes with the theme, education is the change maker, basically. And that was what the vision Mr. G.D. Birla had to start this institute as a school, which we call Pathshala, and then now it has become the university. And we are going to enter into our Diamond Jubilee of 60 years of BITS Pilani as a university. Regarding the education in BITS Pilani, I will go with the past, present, and future in contextualizing how the technology has evolved over the period of time. So in the past, when I make the statement for the BITS Pilani, last 25, 30 years, we have instituted the facilities called telepresence facility. This facility actually was very greatly, basically we exploited for our campuses which are distributed all over the places. So for example, we have a campus in Dubai, we have a campus in Goa and Hyderabad, and now we are opening up a campus in Mumbai. So the campuses which are 4 earlier campuses, which had an undergraduate program, we had this telepresence classroom, which we used it very, very effectively for the last 25 years because the teacher is teaching in one of the campuses where the human resources is limited or expertise is limited. The other campuses students are also able to take the classes remotely and interact with the students and the faculty member bidirectionally. So that was something which we were doing it very successfully. Today, we are actually extended this whole technology processes to make it more and more sustainable and make it in the line of a new education policy where we are talking about a continuing education. So we have started this, we call work integrated learning program for working professionals. We have almost 37,000 working professionals registered for the master's program in BITS Pilani, and they are actually taught in a hybrid mode. So now when we are talking during the COVID time of a hybrid mode, let me just say that the BITS Pilani was doing this for a long time, where the students, the working professionals used to be taught with the remotely, as well as the faculty members used to go and teach on the site. So this is something which was happening for a work integrated learning programming. And we also extended it to the remote labs because there is a physical experiences which the experimental facilities which they can operate remotely. Virtual labs are different than the remote labs, where the labs are, you command from here and the labs are operating physically there. And that is something which we created that environment. That was our present. What is our future? So in the future, we have already taken the initiative towards making it the education more affordable. So how do you make it the education more affordable? The very simple thing is that today's world, everybody wants to do the computer science. And when everybody wants to do computer science, they want to do from Premier Institute, which is very expensive proposition because they have to enter to the exams, crack that exam, get admission, so it becomes very difficult. So we have join our hands now with Coursera. And we have launched the BSc in computer science 3 years program, any part of the world, not in India, out of the country also, people can register the courses with us and they get a BSc Computer Science from BITS Pilani, where we are taking the best of the 2 worlds. Coursera has a content, BITS Pilani provides the teaching faculty to evaluate, and we really are using them. So that is how we are now creating our future, where we want to make it scalable, where the large number of students who cannot come to the campus can get benefited.
Right, right. I think that's a very interesting point that you make. Professor Sudhir, does that mean that you do see the future of Edtech along with institutions as a step forward?
Absolutely. I think we cannot deny that. But one very important part in this whole exercise is very essential, that the feel of connecting with the teacher, the feel of socializing with the fellow mate, that is the most important part. That element, if you keep it alive in a complementary nature, I think it's a wonderful combination of scalability, at the same time sensibility, in the sense that you can have the experience of a class. So that is very important. So Edtech has a great potential, but we have to be very cautious that how we blend it.
Yes, sure. Thank you for that. Professor Madhu, talking about Edtech and talking about online, the institution that you come from, the Manipal Academy for Higher Education, but also reading up your profile, you've been a great contributor worldwide to institutions. I'm interested in your thoughts about what do you think is the disruptor with technology for education, and how Manipal institutions have adapted technology, and what do you see going into the future?
Great. So thank you very much for having me, and thanks to my panelists as well. So apt questions. I was just thinking about how things have changed in the last 5 years. And prior to COVID, not many people actually gave an online as a necessary disruptor. But now what's happening is there's been very increased amount of diverse needs from both professionals and people who have done their undergraduate but want to have reasonable amount of work experience and then want to have a career. Now, what's happened is in India, there is, if you just take the management landscape alone, there are 200,000 students who write the CAT exams. Everybody wants to go to the top 20 B schools, but not everybody makes it, right? So then what happens? You need to have excellent universities like Manipal, which is an IOE, and saying that, look, we can actually bring world-class education to your doorstep. And the credibility of a university that offers these sorts of programs is very, very important. Now, Sudhir spoke about, the enjoyable experience, the feel, the look, the feel, the connection with the professor. That's highly important. If you look at many online programs that are being offered, unfortunately, Ravneet, is becoming either redundant or outdated, largely because you spoke about the WEF skills. The skill set continuously changes. And unfortunately, people who tend to offer online education are not aware of what are those skill sets. So when you design a program, you've got to be very clear about what the industry is demanding, because these people are already working and they want to have a program that will give them a flip to their own career in some years' time. So number one is to look at all the skill sets. Number two, if you're offering an online program, it has got to be in line with what the industry demands and what the industry needs. Perhaps even join hands with the industry body. Three, when you develop a curriculum like this, you cannot take the professors away. It cannot always be technology. There has got to be a blend of a professor who's standing there and case studies. Is highly, highly important. We do a lot of online programs with a hell lot of case study pedagogy, which actually brings a lot of reality back into the classroom. My final point to you would be that when you do this online, people have to understand that it's got to be a very enjoyable and a memorable experience for a participant. There's got to be teamwork, there's got to be individual work, there's got to be assessments, what pedagogy you bring in. It's very challenging, but a highly important disruptor.
Very important point, Madhu. I think what is interesting to me is you and I do come in from Australian experience as well. I'm interested, like in Deakin University for that matter, we have a whole team of experts called instructional designers.
Correct.
Right? So when they develop content, they develop content with the view that the learner is going to be at a distance. The learner is going to be doing this online. So the pedagogy of that is completely different. Do you see that changing in India? I know your institutions do that.
Yes.
But do you see that changing in India at scale as well?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's an excellent question, and I know Deakin very well now. You guys do it. Mahe also does it very similar, where there are video bits, there are sound bits, there is then PowerPoint slides, so all sorts of those technology-aided stuff happens. But I actually think, Ravneet, that most schools, most top universities who are tending to offer these kinds of programs, if they're not technologically savvy and they don't know how to do this, will not be successful. Because it is an absolute turn-off if you don't know how to use the medium properly. If you simply use tech, like, the way you design your courses, the faculty has to put in substantial amount of hours to create the video content, and that is no joke. And it's not very easy to do these things.
Not. And I
that
think
instructional design, keeping in mind the participant, is
Yeah.
a very apt point.
And I think the other challenge is the changing technology.
Yes.
How do you...
AR, right?
It's all the time changing. So how do you actually use the right technology at the right time, at the right place, with the right outcome? And that itself is paradoxical, because...
There is also a substantial amount of investment that universities has to make.
Absolutely.
Right? It is not that you can get these things done in a small amount. There is a lot of investment that goes in. You have to be so aware, because technology gets outdated very quickly.
Yes.
Right? So you almost have to be forward-looking in these matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sudhir, do you think that the mindset in India, like I'm interested in India vis-a-vis the world, sort of impact. Do you think that education institutions in India are investing in technology, are understanding that the use of technology is not merely to put knowledge to put content online.
Yeah.
Do you
So,
understand?
I'll just tell you, see, we have been going the days for the Nalanda and Takshashila, where the people used to come for the education in India. I think what I think Madhu was highlighting is about the matching with the technology. If you want to accelerate, you want to be with the pace with the technology changes, where it is better to bank on the Edtech companies, which has the technologies and the expertise, and the academic institutions can give the expertise part of it. Now, coming to the question, here we have to be faster in a sense that the kind of the know-how and the knowledge which we are creating, for which Indian government is now trying for the Startup India. So that is where the startup and innovations which is happening in Edtech segment, where there is a lot of opportunity, can bring in more tools to the universities, which can make the things much faster to grow. So I think I see a great academic environment in India, which would make it accessible. And now many of the developing countries are sending their students, and the campuses are getting opened here and so on. So I think a lot of activities are happening at various campuses, and these are good days for Indian academia, for that matter.
Absolutely. Thank you, because I think it's really important to make that point, that the shift of where we were 5 years back for use of technology to where we are now is changing rapidly. And I think the next 5 years is going to be even faster change as we see in this sector. And I think that India education sector, alongside whether we call it the academic sector or the edtech sector, is very well poised and very well positioned to make good use of this for the learners, because it's really important to make sure that the outcome that we want from this education with the use of technology is appropriate and it actually has impact, which I think is the key point that most education institutions are keen on. Let me turn to you, Professor Chatterjee. You are from the University of Engineering and Management, Jaipur. Tell us about what is the impact of online education from your perspective in teaching education through online practices, and any key steps that your organization would like to highlight that you have impacted into the sector?
Hello, the learned audience. Am I audible? Thank you. So, yes, online, we have talked a lot about online. So, there are two aspects to it. One is the students sitting at home and learning. The other aspect is students sitting in the classroom itself and learning online. I think the second one is a better practice or better accepted by the students of current days. Now, when we are talking about online learning, if we go back to the COVID days, all the guardians of the different students, as the previous panel was saying, all the guardians of the previous students who were learning during these COVID days using the online platform, they will say, no, we don't want online platform. We are absolutely tired. My son does not learn online. Now, what if that same student, instead of learning it using a Zoom platform on his computer or on his laptop, wears an Oculus headset and feels that he or she is exactly sitting in the classroom and looking on his right, talking to his friend, looking on his left, talking to his friends, who are also sitting in their own building, own residences, and wearing that same Oculus headset feels that he's also in the same classroom. Like I talking to my left, I see somebody, that same person looks right and sees me. So such a platform, such a thing has been in use or is being currently in use at the current moment. And that is facilitating the online learning. The teacher sitting at his or her own residence again, talking to the class or talking in his, feels that he's talking to the class standing in front of them. So such a thing has been in use. Now secondly, as I was saying, sitting in the classroom. Sitting in the classroom, we have talked a lot about personalization in learning. See, a student in a classroom, one student has to be the weakest. Now, a teacher cannot teach the weakest student looking at the interest of the whole class. But if that student again has got such an Oculus headset with AI embedded in it, then the possibility is that student can immediately ask that headset about the topic, and that headset brings in a videographic presentation of the entire content, where the student can stop that video at any point of time using just his fingers, his or her fingers over here, and ask questions to that AI bot, and that answers the questions. In this way, the personalization can be brought in. This online learning can be used in so many other ways, madam. I can just give another quick example, is feedback on the courses. The students are generally shy, and then they don't actually give a feedback about their learning, about how well they learned. Now, what they can do is, once the classes are going on, a student can simply say, or maybe point over here and say that I don't understand this point. A teacher, after his or her class, gets a total representation of how many students in the class understood that course and how many did not. And a course curriculum revision can be done on the basis of this. Last but not least, one example that I will give is feedback on teaching quality also. A student in his class, just after the class, gets an automatic AI-generated questions in front of him, his or her eyes. He answers the question based on, the questions are based on the content of the class. He answers the question over there again in the air like this. And those answers, based on those answers, teacher gets a feedback that which students could actually learn, which students did not. So such whole things, AI integrated with AR and VR and online learning together, can have a big impact on AI, on higher education, I believe.
Very well said. I do have a question for you. I think that absolutely AR, VR, is important. It is the future. But what about the emotional quotient?
I actually, when I talked about this whole thing, if you could actually visualize that, I never brought the teacher, I took the teacher out of equation. The teacher was always present. The questions were being thrown by the teachers. The content was being delivered by the teachers. Only these extra things were acting as facilitators. The teacher is never ruled out of equation. A teacher always has a role to play.
No, that absolutely. And I think the hybrid model, where complete online or complete offline is going to be difficult into the future. I don't know if my panel members agree that a hybrid model and the appropriate use of technology, as you say, how do you use the top-end technology to deliver, say, a few concepts, but also how do you use technology to seek feedback? How do you use technology to engage and interact? And how do you use technology to ensure outcomes? I think those are also aspects that technology-based education can be more effective than just a face-to-face. And I think the scalability, because what is really important for us in India, I think, is also to understand that we are not responsible for teaching the top 2% of the young population. We have to think about the rest of the 98% as well, who are going to learn differently. So how do you make sure that technology is scalable and it can make use of that? So very well said. Let me come to you, Sudhir. NEP is a big change and a big, I would say, step up into where India is looking into its education. Amongst the whole NEP aspect, the two very important aspects was internationalization, and the second aspect was use of technology and scalability. So I'm interested in your thoughts about how technology has supported international engagement with NEP at its base, and do you think that given the use of technology, India can do a lot more with international partnerships?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's a very relevant context now, the internationalization, be it in the school or a higher education institutes, is talked about. So there are different ways of the international. So why people go for internationalization, or why any academic institution will fall back on the internationalization? One of the things is that to give the experiences, students to have the cultural experience, the immersive experience of academia over there, learning from the experts abroad, and they look at from the scalability point of view. Means large number of students can get benefited about it. So there are, if you are going for a shorter versions like internships and all that, people can go physically there and conduct the internship, get experiences of the foreign university. But when you look at developing a program which is scalable, that is where there is a co-curated, co-designed, co-delivered kind of a content if it is created, then there is a chance of using the technology, giving an experience of an international education, and maybe intertwining kind of a programs can be created. So BITS Pilani recently has done this program with RMIT University, where we have called BITS RMIT Higher Education Academy. It's a 2+2 program for undergraduate students, where from the day one, there is from an RMIT faculty member is involved, and they use all the state-of-the-art technologies for bringing that experience into the classroom remotely, sitting in Australia, teaching the students over here, and time to time they come and go. So they come, interact with the students. So that is where with the hybrid, so both is required, the technology as well as the physical presence of a faculty member, so that there is an interaction between this. So I think the internationalization is very definitely a talk topic about the NEP. Using technology, yes, that's a very good opportunity for us. Number 3, scalability and bringing those cultural experiences. So I think that the technology is going to make boundaryless. Let us be very clear.
Yeah,
there are no continents, no countries would be there. People would be connected seamlessly with everyone, any part of the world. And that's a great part about the NEP opening up for the internationalization and academic institutions grabbing this opportunity with open arms.
Yeah, and I think if you put the learner in the center, like if you say that everything revolves around the learner, it's an amazing opportunity for the learner to be able to access quality education from top Indian institutions, top foreign institutions, while being in their home country. And I think use of technology really helps that. So coming to you, Professor Madhu, I'm interested in your thoughts on, of course, feel free to comment on this point, but because Manipal, again, is one of the institutions that has been pioneering in international collaborations. I remember some 30 years back, you had that ICAS model, which was 2 years here and then the rest overseas. And of course, we are partners. Deakin University does a lot of work with you. I'm interested in your thoughts on this point, but also if you sort of look at the need of the industry today, it's a lot around skills. It's a lot around reskilling, upskilling, and whole of that concept. What role do you think technology plays with institutions like yours to support the need of skilling industry with critical skills, essential skills, future skills as we call them, both from a technical perspective and from essential skill perspective?
Thank you very much, Ravneet. I mean, this is a question that's really, really close to my heart, because I'm finding more and more that most programs that we're doing are actually not connected to what the skill required by the industry is. And that's been my concern. If we just look at the business management education, you leave the top 20, 30 schools. Unfortunately, students who graduate from those bottom schools are no longer employable. Almost 60% of the engineers are not employable.
Yes.
Right? And why is this happening? So all these engineers who are not employable suddenly think, no, I want to actually go to management and do my management program. But didn't you spend 4 years doing engineering? Don't you want to have some experience on the floor in a factory? No, but you want to come to management. So there is a definite problem in the way the undergraduate curriculum is structured in this country. And therefore, the very important point would be to have a look at how we connect with industry. Unfortunately, the connection with industry demands and the skill sets required happens quite late. It happens either in an MBA program or perhaps an MTech program. So, therefore, that is a problem, and that needs an immediate attention. on the idea that Sudhir had mentioned also, you spoke about internationalization. I think there is an excellent opportunity for Indian schools. I can name several universities who have done this, and my as MOUs with 250 of the top schools, universities around the world. I think that today an Indian student is expecting, Ravneet and other participants over here, is they want to have that exposure which they're not able to get here completely, right? So when you work with a Deakin or a Monash or a Melbourne or Sydney or Duke or wherever, you're able to get two different perspectives. A perspective that an Indian professor is able to offer, absolutely. And a second perspective, which you spoke about, so there is also the global, the cultural, the understanding of how businesses are run in different countries. And what are the regulatory, legal demands, requirements that happens. That is something that's missing, because in India, perhaps the focus, unless and until you're in top 20, 30 B school, which does a lot of global case studies, you are very specifically looking at what Indian context is, which is not, there's nothing wrong about it. But I think the way the world is moving today and the way India is looking at is certainly to bring in the best universities from abroad and then collaborating. So you just, one more point I wanted to add. You take this business schools accreditation.
Yes.
If you, ranking is one thing, and I always tell people, you know, you may be ranked 20, 30 this year, you may be ranked 50 next year. But accreditation is a seal of approval. So the ASESB, the AMBA, the EQUIS, which accredits business schools, are saying to us, hey, what is the component of internationalization that you have? How many international professors are coming in? How many top journals are you publishing in? What case studies are you using?
Yeah.
How are you evaluating a student?
Yeah.
All of these becomes highly important. In the online space, unfortunately, I'll just take 30 more seconds. In the online space, it becomes a little difficult unless and until you have set a curriculum with the international partner, co-curate it, create it, design it, and ensure that there is a very seamless self-paced learning available for a participant. Then these things happen to work.
Absolutely.
But definitely, scalability in India is very, very high, and it's a great market to be in.
Absolutely, fantastic. My very last question and point for you, Professor Chatterjee, in the next 60 seconds, if you can answer, use and focus of EdTech providers in India. How do institutions see themselves working into the future with EdTech providers?
No, I see it very, very positively. Like use of platforms in our organization, at least like Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, and there are so many other platforms where the students, after learning in the classroom, gets a lot of help from the certification programs that helps in the internationalization of education, that helps in students getting a better job opportunity in the PSU sector everywhere. And one last thing I will tell you, like I'll just a quick feedback from the audience. Like, is there any academician present over here who will say that we are not following Bloom's taxonomy in our question papers? Is there any academician present over here? I will say everybody will say, yes, we are using. But I will tell you, do a very quick review of a question paper that has been set in your university or institute, anywhere. You will find that 80 to 90% of the questions we are giving from the first 2 levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and the last 4 levels are in the rest 10%. Now, so beautiful software are being provided by these EdTech companies, where the teachers, when they are setting the question papers, they're taking the help of those platforms and setting the question paper, where an equal distribution among the levels of Bloom's taxonomy is being assured. And because of the last 2 levels, the students are so easily cracking the job interviews and getting better job opportunities.
Great. Thank you very much. I know we are running out of time, so I'm going to open to the floor for questions. If there are any questions, I possibly can take 2 questions. Yes. We can't hear you, actually. You can use this.
Hello. Thank you for the great insight. My name is Preetham. I'm working to build a Edtech platform, which is a learning experience platform. Before I start, I graduated.
I'm going to request you, sorry, to keep your question very short so that we
Yes.
can get the panel members to
Exactly.
answer.
So directly coming to the question, basically, for founders like us, it's always a challenge to reach to the right people or right decision makers, you know. So when we reach to the organizations and we want to show our products, usually we, we do not get response, or sometimes, most of the times, we do not reach to the right decision makers who can evaluate us. Of course, I anticipate that a lot of people must be reaching, and your emails, inboxes would be bombarded. So what's the right strategy to show that we are the right people, we have the right product, and we can change, the way you teach?
Okay, we got your question. Madhu would be the right person to answer it, but I will give you a very quick answer. वो idea जो दिमाग की बत्ती जला दे. Okay, so you should have that idea that सबकी बत्ती जल जाए. Then only people will call you. See, I think you need to be very. It's a marketing problem. It is not the problem of the product. I'm sure you have a great product with you, but what you are not getting the right audience. Basically, that's what you are saying. I think it's a world of marketing. Digital marketing allows you to do very easily. I'm sure you can take the lessons from Madhu. I think he will give you great lessons about it. Okay, so I think that's. Thank you so much. But this is a challenge. This is a challenge.
You have to have that idea which is different from everyone else. If you are 10 people doing the same thing, it's not going to help. But if you have something which is out of the box, you'll get the attention. I don't know, Madhu, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, very quickly, I think it's a really smart question. He wants us to give him the strategy of how to reach the door. That's okay. But I think Sudhir actually answered it. See, you get hundreds of mails, but something that really catches the eye, something that's very, very unique, an opportunity that sort of, opens the eyes of the reader, the decision maker. We can chat about it offline. I mean, I don't want to take too much of your time, but certainly we can discuss this. I can chat about some of those issues with you.
Yeah, great.
Thanks.
Just last question, yes.
Right. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed hearing you, as I'm sure everyone has. So a quick question for you. Capital-intensive techniques are mostly used in countries, first world countries. I'm a graduate from Deakin myself. My sister is a graduate from Deakin. So I understand that they're studying more of automation and robotics as compared to India, wherein I don't want to say anything, but we understand that we are the most populous in the world. So labor-intensive is what we believe in. How do you blend these courses? But even if you bring automations, wouldn't that result in job cuts and unemployments, if my question makes sense?
So you're asking me to sort of differentiate between capital labor intensive? Is that the question?
So the courses that are studied in India versus that are studied in Australia, and you guys are talking about blending, that there'll be internationalization with the policies, and the courses would blend. How would it eventually impact the Indian education system?
See, I mean, I think Sudhir actually said something very nicely earlier, that this is a very boundaryless world, is one marketplace kind of a point, right? So when you're bringing in cutting edge courses from top schools from outside, and you're integrating for a participant in India, I think this is why the design has to be very, very specific. The curation of the programs, the curricula has got to be done at a very early. You cannot suddenly come in and say, let's bring 6 courses from Melbourne and 6 courses from MIT in Manipal. Will it work? It doesn't. There is a lot of effort that goes in the background to bring in the necessary courses. Because you're right, if you were to do some work with engineering schools, imagine the sort of equipments that you'd need. So we have a stem cell school in Bangalore campus, right? If I have to work with the Duke Medical School or Chicago, the medical school, and say, can Chicago and MIRM work together on regenerative medicine? Can you imagine the number of crores of investments that we will have to make? Happy to make those investments. Top universities do make it, but this is where it requires a hell of a lot of time. Now, some of these things are not going to give you the ROI immediately. That's something I really want to say. You can run amazing programs. It takes a long time to give the sort of return. So if universities have deep pockets and they're willing to invest because they know there is a definite demand in this country and this is absolutely cutting edge world-class program, you will have to make those. These are what I call strategic investments. Yeah. And they must be made. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. I know we are running out of time, so I'm going to close the session here. Thank you to my esteemed panel for your time and to the audience for being so patient. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ravneet. I think from all of us,
thank you.
Lovely, I think very nicely
Thank
conducted.
you.
Yeah, you did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I request all of you to please stay on stage. Ms. Pawha, I request you to please felicitate our panelists. Can you please get the mementos on stage? We'd like to thank Mr. Sudhir Kumar Barai, Professor Madhu Veeraraghavan, and Professor Dr. Biswajoy Chatterjee for being here with us, for sharing all the knowledge, and of course, to Ms. Pawha for moderating the session. Let's hear it loud together, everyone. And to felicitate Ms. Pawha, I'll request Ms. Maria to please join us on stage.